As a typically sized adult human, I'm used to being confronted with large things that make me feel small and puny. Mountains, monster trucks, the cosmic enormity of the indifferent universe. But crucially, those intimidatingly enormous things aren't actively trying to beat me up. Except that one monster truck. We don't need to get into it. That's far from the case for the bosses from these unforgettable boss fights, in which we were so ludicrously small next to our gargantuan opponents that we felt like tiny, helpless babies. Strap in for the 7 biggest bosses that could and should have crushed us like ants, but didn't. And beware spoilers for the following games.
Cronos!
The ancient Greeks knew Cronos as the leader of the Titans, not to be confused with Kronos, the literary personification of time, or Cronuts, the baked treat combining croissants and donuts that would not be invented for another few millennia.
I live in torment because of you. After you took the box from Pandora's temple, Zeus was consumed with fear. He banished me to the pits of Tartarus.
Being one of the powerful giants known as Titans, Cronos was much bigger than a hybrid pastry, and even though Cronos is imprisoned and shackled in the underworld, you might expect his staggering scale to give pause to Kratos, who is by comparison the size of a largish grain of rice. But as they say, it's not the size that counts, it's the furious commitment to bloody revenge at any and all costs, which your boy Kratos has in spades. So begins a ridiculously oversized boss fight that plays out like a violent reboot of Marvel's Ant-Man, if Paul Rudd's replacement were willing to shrink down and rip off his enemy's fingernail, which no one needs to see that, Marvel. Let's take that off the table right now. Oh, you hate to see it. As if to underscore the ridiculous mismatch in scale between Kratos and Cronos, comparatively tiny Kratos can see every crease and crevice in the Titan's surface, like a dermatologist with a powerful microscope that reveals Cronos has a skin condition, which is the condition of having skeletons erupting from it. Ugh. After several abject failures from Cronos to squash Kratos like a stabby, angry bug, the shackled Titan determines his best course of action is to swallow Kratos whole. I don't want to tell you how to do your job here, big man, but that seems like a bad idea. And oh, what's that? It was! Now Kratos can check disemboweling a primordial deity off of his bucket list, and Cronos can forget about whatever's left on his because he's about to be fatally stabbed in the giant forehead. Still not worse than having your fingernail ripped out somehow. Why is that?
There are many ways to play Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Our favourite involves crawling very, very slowly on our belly towards an unaware guard while we listen to a mixtape of 80s hits Hideo Kojima made for us.
Enemy presence detected. The map has been updated.
Truly the Orson Welles of video games. If you prefer, however, you can just let a dog or a helicopter or a woman in her underwear do all the hard work while you kick back and think about cool logo designs for your PMC. Maybe a bear, but it says Ultra Horse underneath it. Thanks, Quiet. The point is, these tactics only work against regular human guards, which is usually fine because regular human guards are what you'll be facing most of the time in The Phantom Pain. Where your tactics might come slightly unstuck is in Chapter 31, in which you have to fight the colossal bipedal tank known, because this is important auteur Hideo Kojima we're talking about, as Metal Gear Sahelanthropus.
You need to stop it, boss. Destroy Sahelanthropus. Stop Sahelanthropus. Destroy that thing.
Yeah, how about you come down here and do it, Kaz? As you can see, Sahelanthropus is as tall as it is difficult to spell, standing a massive 24 meters tall or close to 80 feet. The only feet you'll be worried about though are the giant metal ones it stood on as it comes stamping towards you. Looks like it's the final countdown, Snake. He's gonna spin you right round, like a record. Sorry, it is a very good soundtrack. If it were just these stampy feet, we might be okay, but Sahelanthropus is also equipped with a kind of electric whip sword thing that he'll just straight up use to shish kebab helicopters and chuck them at you. Did I mention that this game is set in 1984? What, we're still on cassette tape Walkmans, but we have robots with electric whips? WTH code. Anyway, cue a lot of panicky running and screaming and blind firing missiles because this thing is huge and terrifying. Not now, weird floating psychic child in a gimp suit. I'm trying to fight this giant walking tank and its electric whip. Truly the Citizen Kane of video games. Rosebud.
Christ, this place is a junkyard.
More like a graveyard.
Any sign of Ellie's ship?
I'm reading several transponders, but none of them are ours. According to the registry, they're sovereign colonies' warships.
After 3 whole games of battling terrifying shape-shifting space monsters, it's going to take a lot to rattle Dead Space's Isaac Clarke. Yeah, seen it all before, mate. But don't you worry, final game in the series, Dead Space 3, has something very special up its sleeve for its grand finale, as you'll discover when you arrive at a moon orbiting the planet Tau Volantis.
The hell is that?
The moon. What's left of one?
Only to quote the great philosopher and warrior poet Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's no moon. The moon of Tau Volantis is actually a giant writhing mass of necrotic flesh, and more directly relevant to you, the game's final boss. Yes, the moon itself. Rather than finding a spaceship, pointing it in the opposite direction and yanking the hyperspace lever, dogged hero Isaac instead aims his face directly at the zombie moon and sort of skydives through space towards it. Eventually he lands on a conveniently placed circular boss fight platform ready for a planet-sized punch-up. Why would you take your helmet off? Are you expecting that thing to smell good? The fight itself is actually fairly standard boss fodder, firing objects into its weak spots, in this case 3 giant squid-like eyes, dispatching necromorph minions, and avoiding getting gobbled up whole by its giant gaping maw. To be honest, the main challenge is just dealing with how icky everything looks. Still, it's not just Isaac who's having a bad day. Spare a thought for his buddy Carver, who has to be pulled through its guts.
Carver! Carver! Just hang on! I'm gonna have to pull you through its guts!
Yeah, it doesn't sound any more pleasant hearing it twice. And what's your reward for single-handedly destroying a giant zombie moon and saving humanity once and for all? Champagne and cigars? A high five from the President of Earth? Just a nice sit down? Nope, in order to destroy the marker that is at the root of all this horror, you and Carver have to make the ultimate sacrifice in a poignant final scene. I mean, what were you expecting? You know, there's a reason it's not called Alive Space 3. Poor Carver. At least he got to be pulled through its guts.
Light and dark! Unless both sides remain, the universe will lose its balance and face another Armageddon!
Then this thing should have slept for eternity.
Theologians through the ages have pondered the question, what is God and what is the nature of God? Yet until 2010, nobody had thought to ask, what if God were a skyscraper-sized statue on top of a space rocket? This This is the hypothesis submitted by action game Bayonetta, in which the all-powerful entity known by mortals as Jubileus the Creator slumbers within a colossal statue and can only be awoken by being blasted into space, with Bayonetta herself embedded in one of its gigantic eyes and zealous baddie Father Balder embedded in the other.
The time has come for Jubileus to return. At last, the Trinity of Realities will know their real ruler, and time will begin anew.
At any rate, the apocalyptic revival of Jubileus comes about even after Bayonetta's BFF Jean extracts her from the divine eyeball goop of Jubileus the Creator.
My, oh my. No one can control Jubileus now. His power is too intense.
Thus, we find ourselves in the final battle for the continued existence of reality as we know it, and the only appropriate scale for a confrontation this epic is one in which Bayonetta fighting Jubileus looks like a goth Barbie squaring up to the Statue of Liberty. In a cosmic flex, Jubileus conjures a vast sphere to contain this mind-boggling boss fight, variously filling it with lava, then ice, and prehensile tendrils with upside-down faces. I don't 100% get why, but they do say God works in mysterious ways. It's just as well Bayonetta hasn't been intimidated a day in her 5 centuries of being a mighty morphin hair witch, because we're plenty intimidated on her behalf. The sense of being dwarfed by an unknowably powerful space titan lasts right up until Bayonetta one-ups her opponent by summoning a somehow even bigger, even more terrifying demonic avatar, which she tags in to punch the suddenly puny Jubileus right out of its corporeal vessel. After which, all that remains is for you to steer this gargantuan boss into the destructive heart of the sun and hope that Jubileus doesn't have an even bigger, even meaner god sibling waiting to beat you up in turn, or we'll be here all day.
Asura the traitor! Asura the destructor! You do not belong in this world!
In Asura's Wrath, you play as Asura, a demigod who has what could charitably be described as anger management issues. He has a good reason to be angry though. Not only is he framed for regicide and treason, but when he makes it home he discovers his daughter has been kidnapped and his wife has been fatally wounded, and also some packages he was waiting for got delivered while he was out, even though he was only gone for 30 minutes, and now they've been sent back to the depot and who knows when he'll see them again. Hashtag relatable. As such, Asura does what any rage god driven by blind, unadulterated fury would do, spends the next 6 hours of video game shouting and furiously murdering anyone who might be even partly responsible.
I grow tired of hearing about the world!
One such person is Asura's former cohort, Wyzen, who might seem like an odd choice for this list at first because when you first meet him, he's a pretty normal size. Well, apart from his head. That's enormous.
Defeating the great Wyzen is a dream within a dream!
Yeah, maybe don't do a pompous monologue in front of an actual rage god, is all I'm saying. See? Anyway, the fight doesn't go the way Wyzen was expecting, which means he ends up having to try every trick he knows. The problem is he only knows one trick, and that trick is getting bigger.
Scared speechless, are you? While you had slumbered for 12,000 years, we attained new heights!
His second form, Vajra Wyzen, is enormous, sure, and uses this newfound size for all sorts of new attacks, such as sitting on you. Ouch. What Wyzen didn't count on, though, is that Asura is really very angry. Which leads us to his final form, Gongen Wyzen, a galactically colossal version of Wyzen that dwarfs the planet. His enormous size is actually kind of a drawback here, since pretty much the only thing he can do to Asura now is try to crush him with one of his city-sized fingertips. Which again would be a good plan if Asura weren't very, very angry. Wow, where's Wyzen gonna go from here, I wonder? Oh, he's dead. Well, maybe now Asura will chill out a bit. Nope.
Rise, my apprentice.
What is your will, my master?
Your training is nearly complete. It is time to face your first true test.
Star Wars The Force Unleashed follows a Sith apprentice as he attempts to overthrow the Empire. Not to be confused with Need for Speed The Porsche Unleashed, which follows a car as it attempts to overtake some other cars. Hey, it's more exciting than it sounds, alright? In The Force Unleashed, set between the events of the prequel and original Star Wars trilogies, you're the secret student of Darth Vader, tasked with bumping off the last remaining Jedi Masters as a sort of 8 to 10 hour warm-up for eventually assassinating croaky ultra-jerk Emperor Palpatine.
Now you will kill him, or I will destroy you both.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Over the course of the game, you'll build up your Jedi abilities, going from Scrub Padawan to Vader's ultra-powerful Sith operative, able to fling your enemies around like a pair of Star Wars underpants in a tumble dryer. The biggest test of your Jedi abilities comes late in the game on a planet called Raxus Prime, a galactic junkyard containing garbage on a scale matched only by my old student accommodation. Your final confrontation in this mission is with a Star Destroyer, one of those unreasonably massive mile-long spaceships that are crewed by tens of thousands of Imperial goons.
You're a Jedi, boy. Size means nothing to you. Reach out with your force and grab that ship.
Just to reiterate, the final confrontation is not on a Star Destroyer, it's with a Star Destroyer. You're basically having a fistfight with a spaceship, and you're gonna win. In the game's most memorable scene, you use your awesome mastery of ancient Jedi powers, represented here by furiously twiddling both analog sticks, to literally tear the Star Destroyer out of the sky and gradually drag it down to the planet's surface.
Good. Now rip it down.
That's not to say you won't come up against resistance during this encounter. The ship is constantly firing its cannons and releases waves of smaller TIE fighters to break your concentration by shooting you in the face with lasers. Pretty effective, I'd say. Eventually, you'll pull the ship close enough to trigger the cutscene where you bring the Star Destroyer crashing down onto Raxus Prime, it cuts a huge furrow through the trash, and then you make a daring last-minute leap off the platform. At which point you speed away dramatically in your Porsche 911. Nope, that's me confused again. My bad.
Want to help out with some varmints? You boys are a brave bunch. Make sure y'all go prepared.
There are only 57 shopping days left until National Boss Day, so we recommend you start thinking hard about what to get Adamantoise from Final Fantasy XV, because this is one mountainous megaboss you do not want to disappoint.
Look at the size of it. It's freaking huge.
With over 5 million hit points and a literal mountain on its back, Turtle Monster Adamantoise is bigger than a Call of Duty Modern Warfare patch and takes twice as long to take down.
Well, here we are.
Although the creature is majestic as it is humongous, Prince Noctis and his entourage must destroy it anyway, because I guess it was causing earthquakes and scaring the locals. Seems like a raw deal for this ancient behemoth, but then it is probably full of exotic loot like a 10-story piñata.
Oh, hi there, opening.
Having hunted down the Adamantoise and carefully prepared for the fight, you still have every reason to be daunted, especially when it seems your only chance of slaying your quarry is by endlessly hacking at one of its enormous feet and hoping it gets annoyed to death.
Are we doomed? Pretty doomed!
It's nice knowing you guys.
The good news is this armoured boss is very slightly weaker in its eyeball. The bad news is if you look closely in its eyeball, you'll see how Adamantoise can simply not believe the day it's having with this tiny irritating boy band. Keep it up long enough and even this super turtle will fall to your repetitive hacking, and then there's nothing left to do but pat each other on the back.
That took everything we had.
You should be proud you gave it your all.
I've got nothing left. We actually did it!
Piece of cake, huh?
After an infinite regression, we arrived at an answer. The turtles all the way down.
Why you gotta be like this, Ignis?
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, please click the little bell icon to be notified every time we produce a video, because do you think YouTube's going to show you the videos you want to watch? Ha! Laughable. We've got some other videos here as well if you'd like to watch something right now that will absolutely scratch your video game trivia itch.